The wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, the culmination of years of planning, of dreams and hopes woven into the fabric of a love I thought was unbreakable. I stood there, in a beautiful white gown, surrounded by flowers and smiles, yet all I could feel was a cold emptiness inside me. He was standing beside me, smiling, but it wasn't the smile that had once captured my heart. This smile was different, calculated, hollow. I had seen it before, in moments when I wasn't paying attention, in the fleeting seconds when his mask slipped, revealing the man beneath. I should have seen it earlier. I should have trusted my instincts. His hand was warm against mine, but it didn't comfort me anymore. As I looked into his eyes, I felt no spark of love, no connection, only an unbearable weight, the weight of a lie I had refused to see. "Do you, Alana, take Daniel to be your lawfully wedded husband?" the officiant asked, her voice clear and filled with warmth. I could barely hear her. My mind was racing. Memories flooding back. Memories of every time Daniel had promised me his loyalty, every time he'd sworn that nothing would ever come between us. The promises that now seemed like hollow words, the lies that had poisoned our relationship from the beginning. And then, a flash, a memory, a picture. I saw it all. The moment I had discovered the truth about my fiancé, the man I thought I knew better than anyone. I remembered the phone call I had overheard a week before, the conversation that had shattered everything. "She's not the one I want, Daniel," I had heard his voice, deep, soothing, but laced with something I couldn't place, on the other side of the door. "You know that. I don't love her. I'm just doing this because it's expected of me." And then there was silence, followed by the unmistakable sound of a kiss. I had stumbled back, my heart shattering in my chest as I tried to process the words. Daniel, my Daniel, the man I had loved, was betraying me. He was in love with someone else. And I wasn't the one he had chosen. The tears had come instantly. But I didn't let him see them. I didn't let anyone see how broken I was. Not even Daniel, the man who had so easily shattered my trust. "Alana?" The officiant's voice broke through my thoughts, drawing my attention back to the altar. My heart was pounding in my chest, my hands trembling at my sides. "I can't," I whispered, my voice barely audible. The room went silent. Daniel turned to me, his brow furrowing in confusion. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice hardening. I can't marry you," I repeated, louder this time. My voice was steady, my resolve hardening with each passing second. "I can't marry a man who doesn't love me. I refuse to marry someone who betrays me." The silence that followed was deafening. Every eye in the room was on me, shocked, confused, some of them even angry. But I didn't care. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. I was no longer the woman who would accept betrayal in the name of love. Daniel's face twisted in anger, his lips curling into a sneer. "So, what now?" he demanded. "You think you're just going to walk away from this? From me? From everything we've built?" "Yes," I said, my voice unwavering. "I'm walking away from you, and I'm walking away from this life I thought I wanted. I won't be your second choice, Daniel. I refuse to spend another minute with someone who doesn't respect me." The look of betrayal on his face was almost as painful as the realization that he hadn't loved me the way I had loved him. But I wasn't going to let him break me anymore. Not today. Not ever again. I turned and walked away from the altar, leaving everything behind, the wedding, the guests, the promises, and I left Daniel standing there, stunned, in the silence of his own deception. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what came next. But what I did know was that I had just taken the first step toward reclaiming my life. I had made a choice to live for myself, to refuse to settle for someone who didn't see me as I truly was. My feet carried me through the streets of the city, the sounds of the busy metropolis fading into the background, as my thoughts swirled in a haze of anger, hurt, and disbelief. I felt like I had just woken up from a long, painful dream, only to realize that everything I had believed in was a lie. But it wasn't just about Daniel. It wasn't just about the man who had betrayed me. It was about me, about finding the strength to walk away from something that was never truly mine to begin with. And then, as if fate had guided me, I stumbled into him. "Alana," came a voice, soft and familiar, a voice that had always been there, even when I hadn't known I needed it. I turned, startled, to see Adam standing there, his presence like a calming wave in the midst of the storm that was my life. Adam, the one man I had pushed away for years, the one man I had never truly seen until now. Adam was the kind of man who had always been there, in the background, never demanding attention, but always offering support. He had been my best friend, my confidant, the man who understood me better than anyone else. And yet, I had never allowed myself to see him as anything more than that. Until now. "Are you okay?" His voice was soft, concerned, and filled with something deeper, something unspoken. I felt the tears that I had been holding back finally spill over, and before I knew it, I was in his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. It wasn't just the wedding. It wasn't just Daniel. It was everything. The years of pretending, the years of lying to myself, the years of denying the truth. "I'm so sorry," I whispered, my voice muffled against his chest. Adam's arms tightened around me, his warmth enveloping me like a blanket. "There's no need to apologize," he said gently. "You don't have to explain. I'm here. Always." And in that moment, I realized something that had been there all along but that I had never fully understood. Adam wasn't just a friend. He was the one who had always loved me. The one who had always seen me for who I truly was. He wasn't the man who had betrayed me. He wasn't the one who had broken my heart. He was the one who had always been there, quietly supporting me, waiting for the day I would see him for the man he truly was. And maybe, just maybe, he was the one who could heal me. The days that followed the wedding were a blur of confusion and pain. I couldn't believe I had made the decision to leave Daniel at the altar. But as each hour passed, I felt the weight lifting off my shoulders. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. But there was more to my journey than just walking away from the life I had known. There was a deeper truth I had to face, a truth about who I had been, and who I was becoming. I had spent years chasing after the wrong things, giving my love to someone who never deserved it. And now, I had to rebuild. But it wouldn't be easy. I had to confront my own insecurities, my fears, and the ghosts of my past. The man I thought I loved had torn me apart, but I refused to let him define me. I was more than that. I was more than the woman who had been betrayed, and with Adam by my side, I began to rediscover who I was. It's strange how a single moment can shift your entire perspective. One minute, I was a woman drowning in heartbreak and regret, clinging to a man who never truly saw me. The next minute, I was standing on the precipice of a new life, unsure, but certain that I couldn't go back. I'd broken free from the shackles of a love built on lies, and now it was time to face the uncertain future that lay ahead. Adam had been my rock in the days following the wedding, but as much as I appreciated his presence, something in me told me I had to find my own way. The hurt from Daniel's betrayal still lingered, but it wasn't going to define me. I wasn't the woman who would let a man's dishonesty destroy her. But stepping into this new life wasn't easy. I found myself caught between the past and the present, unsure of who I was becoming. The memories of Daniel, of the life I thought I would have, were so deeply ingrained in me that I felt like a stranger in my own skin. Every morning, I woke up and put on the mask of strength. The mask that told the world I was okay, that I was moving forward. But beneath that mask, I was unraveling. I wasn't sure how to piece myself back together. I'd always been so consumed with the idea of love. I'd been taught that love was the ultimate goal, the thing you worked for, sacrificed for. But now, as I stood in the quiet of my apartment, my thoughts swirling, I realized I'd never truly understood what love was. I'd been looking for validation, for acceptance, from the wrong person. But maybe love wasn't about someone else at all. Maybe it was about finding yourself, about learning to be enough on your own. I wasn't sure when the shift began. Maybe it was the moment I decided to leave Daniel, or maybe it was the quiet strength Adam had shown me when I was at my lowest. Whatever it was, I started to feel a stirring inside me. A realization that I had been wrong all along. Love wasn't something I could force. It wasn't something that came from making sacrifices for someone else. Love started with me. It had to. I had to learn to love myself first. The realization was both liberating and terrifying. It meant I would have to confront every fear, every insecurity I had buried deep inside. But I wasn't going to run from it. I had already run too much in my life. It was time to stand still, face the pain head-on, and take control of my own story. It's funny how life can throw you the unexpected when you least expect it. I had always thought I knew what my life was supposed to look like, what I was supposed to want. I had envisioned a future with Daniel, perfect, seamless, everything I could have dreamed of. But now, standing in front of a mirror in my new apartment, I saw the reflection of a woman who was completely different from the one who had been planning that wedding. I was still raw, still healing, but with each passing day, I could feel myself coming back to life. I had a new job offer, a fresh start. I was no longer defined by the relationship I had with Daniel, no longer defined by his betrayal. I was carving out my own identity, one that didn't need his approval, his affection, or his love. And yet, despite all of this, there was Adam, the man who had quietly been there through everything, through my pain, through my anger, through my tears. He was the one who had always believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And now, as I moved forward, I could see the way he looked at me. It wasn't the look of a friend. It was something more, something deeper. We hadn't spoken about it. The tension between us was palpable, but neither of us dared to address it. We were both afraid of what acknowledging it would mean. I had always thought of Adam as my best friend, the one person who understood me completely. But lately, the feelings he evoked in me had become more complicated. I was torn between the friendship we shared and the desire I felt for him. I spent hours wrestling with my emotions, trying to make sense of the storm that had settled inside me. Could I really let go of everything I had known? Could I open my heart to someone else after everything that had happened with Daniel? But deep down, I knew the answer. I had to. I had to open myself up again. To Adam. To love. To the future I deserved. That night, after a long, exhausting day, Adam showed up at my door. He had a look in his eyes that I couldn't quite place. A mixture of uncertainty and something deeper, something that I didn't dare name. "Alana," he said, his voice low and hesitant. "Can we talk?" I nodded, stepping aside to let him in. The moment the door closed behind him, I felt the gravity of the moment settle in. This was it. The moment we would either take the leap or retreat back into our comfortable roles as friends. We sat on the couch, the silence between us thick, filled with words neither of us were ready to say. But then Adam broke it. His voice was strained, as if it took everything in him to speak. "Alana, I've been trying to keep this to myself for so long, but I can't anymore. I've always loved you, not just as a friend. You mean more to me than you'll ever know." I froze. The air between us crackled with the weight of his words. For a moment, I thought I hadn't heard him right, but the earnestness in his eyes told me everything I needed to know. "Adam." My voice was barely above a whisper, my heart pounding in my chest. "I know it's complicated," he continued, his hand reaching out toward me, his fingers trembling slightly. "I know what you've been through with Daniel, and I don't want to add to that pain. But I need you to know, I'm here for you. Always have been. Always will be." I felt the tears start to well up in my eyes. This wasn't how I had envisioned my life turning out, but there was something about Adam's words, about the depth of his feelings, that unraveled the walls I had built around my heart. "Adam," I whispered, the words slipping out before I could stop myself. "I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't know if I can trust again." His gaze softened, and he gently cupped my face in his hands. "You don't have to be ready, you don't have to trust me right now, but I will wait for you. I will wait for as long as it takes." And in that moment, something inside me shifted. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if I was ready to fully give myself to someone again. But I knew one thing. Adam had always been there. He had always loved me in ways I hadn't allowed myself to see. For the first time in a long while, I allowed myself to believe in love again. Adam's confession had done something to me. Something deep. Something transformative. I had never realized just how much I had been denying myself until I was faced with the rawness of his honesty. It wasn't just about love, it was about the courage to trust again, to heal, and to finally let go of the ghosts that had haunted me for so long. The days after that night were filled with new discoveries. Adam was patient, understanding, and gentle, never pushing me but always there when I needed him. I started to see the world differently, more clearly, more colorfully. There was beauty in the simple things, in the quiet moments we shared. The way Adam would smile at me when I least expected it, the way he listened to me without judgment, the way he made me feel seen, truly seen. But the road to healing wasn't without its challenges. Every so often, the shadows of my past would creep back into my mind, memories of Daniel, of the lies, of the heartbreak. But each time they came, I fought them back. I wasn't going to let the past define me anymore. I was rewriting my story. And for the first time in a long time, I realized something incredibly important. I didn't need a man to complete me. I didn't need anyone's validation. I was whole on my own. I was enough. And yet, as I looked at Adam, as I saw the love and understanding in his eyes, I realized that the love I had once thought was impossible had been there all along. It was never about being rescued or saved. It was about finding someone who saw you for who you truly were and loved you despite your flaws. In Adam, I found that love. And together, we were beginning to build something new, something real, something beautiful. Healing wasn't linear. I had always imagined that once I walked away from Daniel, I would find peace immediately, as if simply stepping away from the man who had betrayed me would instantly bring calm and clarity. But it didn't. There were nights I woke up in a cold sweat, my heart pounding, feeling as if I had never left that dark place. The memories came back, like waves crashing over me, Daniel's whispers of love, the promises he'd made, the touch of his hand that had once felt like home but now felt like a lie. But I was learning how to navigate the chaos. And that was all I could do. The days following Adam's confession were filled with complexity. I couldn't shake the sense of unease that lingered in the back of my mind, the nagging thought that I was making a mistake by opening myself up to him. I wasn't afraid of Adam. I was afraid of what I had yet to face, the ghosts of my past, the trauma Daniel had left behind, and the fear that I might lose myself again in someone else's love. Still, Adam was patient. Too patient, sometimes. He never rushed me, never pushed for more than I was willing to give. His presence was a balm to my soul. Yet, I couldn't ignore the guilt that ate at me, the fear that perhaps I was asking too much of him. Was it fair to let him love me, knowing that I was still broken, knowing that I wasn't whole? One evening we sat in my apartment, the quiet stretched between us like a tightrope. The city lights filtered through the blinds, casting shadows across the room. Adam was there, beside me, as he always was. But tonight, the weight of everything felt heavier. Alana. Adam's voice broke the silence, soft but firm. I know you're still carrying a lot. I see it in the way you pull away, in the way you hesitate when I get too close. But you don't have to do this alone. I turned to him, my heart heavy. His gaze was unwavering, but his words felt like a thread pulling at something deep inside me, something I wasn't sure I was ready to confront. I'm not asking you to heal me, Adam, I said, my voice small. I'm just trying to get through each day. You don't have to do it all at once, he said, gently placing a hand over mine, but you don't have to do it alone either. I'm here for you, Alana, not as a savior but as a partner, someone who sees you, truly sees you, without the mask. His words were simple, but they were a revelation. I had spent so long pretending to be okay, hiding my pain behind walls of pride and independence. I had convinced myself that I didn't need anyone, that I could heal on my own. And in that moment, I realized that healing wasn't just about moving on. It was about allowing others in. It was about allowing myself to be loved, not in spite of my flaws, but because of them. Tears welled in my eyes, and I felt a lump form in my throat. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I leaned into him, my head resting on his shoulder, my body trembling with the weight of everything I had been carrying for so long. And Adam, being Adam, simply held me. No words, no promises, just his presence, steady and unwavering. Trust had always been something I took for granted. I had been the kind of person who believed in loyalty, in honesty, in the beauty of deep connections. But Daniel had destroyed that for me. He had shown me that trust could be shattered in an instant, and once broken, it was impossible to repair. The funny thing about trust is that once it's gone, it's hard to know how to get it back. I couldn't just flick a switch and suddenly trust Adam, even though I knew he hadn't done anything to betray me. I couldn't just erase the wounds that Daniel had inflicted. The scars were still there, raw and tender. I spent the next few weeks trying to make sense of it all, trying to untangle the knots in my heart. Adam and I had become closer, and while I cherished every moment we spent together, I found myself hesitating when it came to truly giving myself to him. There was always a part of me that held back, afraid that if I let him too close, I would lose myself again. One afternoon, we were sitting at a cafe, the soft hum of conversation filling the air. Adam was talking about his latest project at work, but my mind wasn't on him. It was on the tightness in my chest, the gnawing sense of fear that seemed to linger in the background. He paused mid-sentence, as if sensing my distraction. "Alana?" His voice was gentle, but there was an edge of concern. "What's going on? You've been quiet for a while." I looked up at him, meeting his eyes, and for the first time in a long time, I felt vulnerable. I was about to say something, but the words caught in my throat. How could I explain the fear that had been plaguing me? How could I tell him that despite everything, I was terrified of loving him? "I'm scared," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm scared of trusting again. Scared that if I let you in completely, I'll end up getting hurt." Adam's expression softened. He reached across the table and gently took my hand. "Alana, I'm not Daniel. I'm not him. And I'm not going anywhere. You don't have to be afraid of loving me." But I did. I was afraid. Because I had loved Daniel. And look where that had gotten me. "I know you're not Daniel," I replied, my voice thick with emotion. But the pain is still there. The betrayal. The lies. They follow me, even when I try to move forward. Adam squeezed my hand gently. "It's okay to be scared. It's okay to take your time. But you don't have to go through this alone. I'm here, Alana, and I won't let you down." And for the first time, I believed him. Time, they say, is a healer. And while I didn't completely believe that, I did believe in the small moments of grace that had begun to fill my life in the weeks since Adam had confessed his feelings. The healing wasn't instant. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. I found myself laughing again, laughing at silly things, laughing with Adam. I found joy in the little moments, the quiet evenings spent together, the soft touches, the shared silences. I realized that I wasn't just healing from my past, I was building something new. Something worth holding on to. One evening, as we sat in my apartment, watching a movie we had both seen a dozen times, I turned to Adam, my heart full in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. "Do you ever think about the future?" I asked, my voice hesitant. Adam looked at me, his gaze warm and steady. "Of course I do, every day. I think about you, Alana. I think about how much I want to share with you. All the things I want to show you, all the moments I want to experience with you." I smiled softly, my heart swelling with emotion. What if I'm not ready for the future yet? What if I still need time to figure things out? "Then we'll take it one step at a time," he said, his voice unwavering. "I'm not in a rush. I just want to be with you, wherever you are. Whenever you're ready." It was in that moment that I realized something profound. Love wasn't about rushing to the finish line. It wasn't about finding the perfect person or creating a flawless life. It was about being present, about building something that could withstand the storms of the past, and about trusting that, no matter what, we could face the future together. I had spent so long clinging to the past, holding on to the pain, the betrayal, the memories of Daniel, that I had forgotten how to live in the present. But with Adam, I was learning. I was learning to let go of the things that no longer served me, to release the weight of the hurt I had carried for so long. It wasn't easy. There were days when the past crept back into my thoughts, and I felt the familiar ache of betrayal return. But Adam's love was a constant reminder that there was something better out there. Something real. And slowly, I began to believe that I deserved it. I deserved to be loved for who I was. I deserved someone who would stand by me, who would fight for me. Someone who would never betray me. As the months passed, I found myself in uncharted territory. I had spent so many years running from the pain, running from the uncertainty of love, that now, with Adam by my side, I didn't quite know how to be still. Every day with him felt like a new discovery, new experiences, new emotions, new ways of loving. But there were times in the quiet moments of the night when the weight of everything that had happened threatened to pull me back under. The past, with its betrayal and hurt, had a way of lingering in the dark corners of my mind. Despite all that, there was something different now. Something I hadn't known I was capable of until Adam came into my life. Hope. It wasn't a grand, sweeping kind of hope. It was subtle, quiet. It was in the way Adam looked at me, in the way we communicated without words, in the way I had learned to trust him, slowly, cautiously, but deeply. It wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about choosing to let it go, to move forward, step by step. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that life wasn't going to be easy. That healing wasn't something you could just wish away. Every now and then, memories would rise up like old ghosts, and I would find myself looking at Adam with doubt in my heart. One of those moments came unexpectedly. It was a Sunday evening, and we had spent the day at a small park near my apartment, walking through the blooming gardens, the sun setting behind the skyline. Adam had been so patient with me, so gentle, and yet I felt a distance between us I couldn't explain. I couldn't help but wonder, was I ever going to be enough for him? Was I ever going to be whole again? We were sitting on a park bench when I turned to him, my voice trembling. What if I'm still broken, Adam? What if I can never give you the kind of love you deserve? He looked at me, his eyes unwavering, as if he had been waiting for this moment all along. His hand found mine, and he squeezed it gently, his warmth grounding me. "You're not broken," he said softly, his voice firm yet full of tenderness. "You've been through hell, Alana. You've had to rebuild yourself from the ground up. But that doesn't mean you're broken. That means you're stronger than most people I know." "But I'm not perfect," I said, my words escaping before I could stop them. "I still have doubts. I still have fears. I still have parts of me that are raw." Adam's smile was slow and knowing, as if he understood exactly what I was feeling. "You don't need to be perfect. I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to be you." The Alana who's been brave enough to face the darkest parts of herself, the Alana who has a heart full of love to give. Even after all she's been through, I felt tears welling in my eyes, but I didn't look away from him. I let the vulnerability wash over me, let the emotions break free. "Thank you," I whispered, "for seeing me, for loving me, even when I don't know how to love myself." He leaned closer, brushing a lock of hair behind my ear. "There's nothing to thank me for. I'm just here, Alana. I've always been here." As much as I wanted to move forward with Adam, the past had a way of catching up with me. It wasn't long after that conversation in the park that I received a call that would shake everything I had built. The voice on the other end was one I hadn't heard in over a year, the voice of the man who had torn my world apart. "Daniel, Alana." His voice came through, rough and tinged with something I couldn't place. "We need to talk." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. I hadn't heard from him since the day I left him at the altar. He had tried reaching out in the months that followed, but I had ignored him, blocking his attempts to contact me. I wasn't ready to confront the past, not with him, not with anyone. "What do you want, Daniel?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "I've made a huge mistake," he said, his words coming out in a rush. "I know I've hurt you, more than I can ever make up for. But Alana, I've changed. I'm not the man I was before. I just need a chance to explain, to make it right. I clenched my jaw, my grip tightening around the phone. The anger I had buried for so long flared up again. I had spent so many nights asking myself why. Why had he betrayed me? Why had I been so blind? But even as the anger flared, I felt something else, a deep, quiet sense of pity. I wasn't the same woman who had stood in that church, heartbroken and confused. I had grown. I had healed. And I had Adam. "No, Daniel," I said, my voice stronger now, more resolute. "I'm not the person I was when we were together. I've moved on. I've learned that I don't need someone who doesn't value me. I don't need your apologies. What I need is to keep moving forward." There was a long pause on the other end of the line, and then he sighed. "I understand," he said quietly. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. For everything." I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. The past was done. I didn't need to go back to it. And I certainly didn't need his approval. I hung up the phone, letting out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. The past had been closed, and I had the power to keep it shut. It had been a few months since my conversation with Daniel. Since then, things with Adam had only deepened. I had faced my past, confronted the parts of me that I had kept hidden for so long, and now I could finally breathe. The burden of Daniel's betrayal no longer weighed on me. Adam and I had moved in together shortly after my conversation with Daniel, and while there were still moments of uncertainty, I knew in my heart that this was where I was meant to be. With him. We had spent the last few months building our life together, taking things one step at a time. Every morning I woke up next to him. I felt a sense of peace that I had never known before. Every evening we spent together, whether it was making dinner or simply sitting in silence, was a moment I treasured. I realized now that love wasn't just about grand gestures. It wasn't about the perfect fairy tale romance I had imagined in my youth. Love was built in the small, quiet moments, the ones where you truly saw the other person, where you learned to trust and respect one another. And yet, even as I reveled in the warmth of Adam's love, there was a quiet voice in the back of my mind, a voice that asked if I was ready for the next chapter, if I was ready to fully embrace the future, if I was ready to make the ultimate commitment to Adam. One evening, as we sat together on the couch watching a movie, Adam turned to me. His expression was serious, but there was something in his eyes, something that felt like a question. "Alana," he said softly, "I know we've been through a lot, and I know we're taking things slowly. But I want you to know that I'm here for the long haul. I want a future with you. I want us to build something together, something real. I want to ask you, from the bottom of my heart, will you marry me?" My breath caught in my throat, and for a moment I couldn't speak. I had been so focused on healing, on letting go of my past, that I hadn't allowed myself to dream of this moment. But now, as I looked into Adam's eyes, I saw everything I had been searching for, a future filled with love, trust, and endless possibilities. "Yes," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. "Yes, Adam, I will marry you." And in that moment, I knew that this was the beginning of something beautiful, something real. Something worth every tear, every heartbreak, and every moment of uncertainty. This was our love story, one of redemption, growth, and second chances. The wedding was small, intimate, but it was perfect. We stood in front of our closest friends and family, promising to love and support each other through whatever life had in store. There were no grand declarations, no dramatic vows, just a simple promise to love, to honor, and to trust. As I looked at Adam, my heart full, I knew that this was my second chance, my rebirth. I had learned that love wasn't about perfection. It was about growth. It was about finding someone who would walk beside you, even when the road was hard. It was about trusting, not because you had no fears, but because you believed in each other, despite them. And with Adam, I had everything I had ever wanted: a future, a love, a home. And in that moment, I was finally whole.